Tonight, Donald Trump is talking after the judge in his New York case postpones his sentencing. No decision until after the election. President Biden staying silent after his son pleads guilty. Here on the Hill tonight, Mark Garagos, Hunter Biden's attorney, joins us live. Also this evening, Kamala Harris off the campaign trail, getting ready for Tuesday's big debate. But look who is stepping back into the spotlight.
Writing this memoir has been a deeply personal and reflective journey for me.
Why Melania Trump says she wants to set the record straight. And don't you just sometimes feel like your airline points just get watered down? Well, now there's a government investigation looking into just that. The points guy, Brian Kelly, joins us with what you need to know about your rewards points. Welcome to Washington. I'm Blake Berman. You are watching the most politically unpredictable show on all of television. This is The Hill on NewsNation. All right, so it is 60 days until Election Day, but we also learned today it is now 81 days until Donald Trump's new sentencing. The judge in Trump's New York case ruling today to punt his sentencing decision until November 26th. That is 3 weeks after the presidential election. Judge Juan Merchan acknowledging the elephant in the room, writing the decision, quote, should dispel any suggestion that the court will have issued any decision or imposed sentence either to give an advantage to or create a disadvantage for any political party and or any candidate for any office. Donald Trump responded to the ruling while on the campaign trail in North Carolina.
Because I did nothing wrong. It's a witch hunt. It's an attack by my political opponents. It's strictly third world, banana republic stuff.
Now, for voters, issue number one in this election remains the economy. And today, another warning sign for those who are trying to find a job. The government says 142,000 jobs were created in August, with the unemployment rate now at 4.2%. Now, no matter what the politicians, no matter what the candidates on both sides of the aisle tell you, the slowdown in hiring is undeniable. Here's one way to look at it. Last year, the economy averaged about 251,000 jobs a month. However, in the last 4 months, there's a noticeable pullback. Job creation about 45% lower than last year. Both candidates today addressing the economy, including Kamala Harris, during a rare radio interview.
Job numbers, which are horrible, by the way, horrible, like really bad. And you know that. I'm sure you won't report on it, but the job numbers are terrible.
16 Nobel laureates, the smartest economists in the world, had said that Trump's plans would increase inflation and land us in a recession by the middle of next year.
All right, so that's part of where we are this evening. Joining me tonight here on the Hill, Scott Bolden, NewsNation political contributor, Chris Steyerwalt, of course, the host of the Hill Sunday and NewsNation political editor, Kelly Meyer, NewsNation Washington correspondent, and T.W. Origi, former communications aide to Mike Pompeo. Hello to you all. Nice to have you all in. Happy Friday. Made it to the end of the week, but still lots to talk about. Yep. Chris, let's start with you. The pushing of this sentencing until exactly 3 weeks after the election. There were a lot of Republicans who were hoping that the Republican candidate would be in cuffs at some point before the election. That's not going to happen, or a lot of Democrats. That's not going to happen.
Probably some Republicans.
Maybe. And I wonder how that sort of changes the race at all, with the decision being until after the sentencing, until after the election, or does it not at all?
It's hard to prove a negative. Had Donald Trump been sentenced, had that taken place, how would the electorate have responded? I don't know that he could intensify his base support anymore, but there are some, I think we can think of these as anti-Trump Republicans who are annoyed by his stance on tariffs or who think that his flip-flopping on abortion is odious, that might have rallied to him a little bit. There could have been some positive effect. Of the 5 or 6% of the electorate that remains undecided and is available, I don't know how much they don't know about Donald Trump. So I don't know that it would have had any effect.
All right, joining me now is the former Deputy Assistant Attorney General, Tom Dupree. Tom, nice to see you and speak with you as always. Thanks for being with us here on the Hill. I think there's really just 3 questions here. Let's tick through them. Was Marshawn right, the judge, to do what he did?
I think he was right, Blake. Look, I don't think he had much of a choice, frankly. The Trump people were pushing hard to delay sentencing past the election. And when Alvin Bragg and his prosecutors basically agreed and said delay is fine with us, I think it left Marshawn no choice. If he had moved ahead with sentencing, I think it would have been bizarre, given that all the parties in that courtroom were comfortable in recommending a delay.
All right, so that's question 1. Let's go to the others. What happens, Tom, if Donald Trump wins on November 5th? Or we learn that he won on November 6th, 7th, 8th, whatever. And then there's this November 26th.
If that happens, the world changes. For one thing, it will not be as easy a solution in the New York case as it will in the federal cases. The federal cases, once he's president, he can order them to be dismissed. The New York case, he doesn't have
that power. Right, so what about New York? Yeah, what do they do in New York then?
I think in New York, from my perspective, I think the judge will not be able to sentence him to an immediate term of incarceration. I don't think constitutionally you could condemn an incumbent or soon-to-be president of the United States to sit in a jail cell. I think at that point, Marshawn, assuming he agrees to uphold some sort of sentence, I think would have to go somewhere like, impose a fine or something like that that wouldn't prevent the president-elect from exercising his constitutional duties.
So then the flip to that is, what if he loses? And then they're sentencing 3 weeks later.
Yeah, if he loses and they're sentencing 3 weeks later, I think, number one, it at least creates the possibility of a jail sentence, because obviously you wouldn't be infringing on a president-elect's power to exercise the power of his office. But I think there also could be some sort of sense in the public that, look, enough is enough. He was defeated for the presidency. He's going to now kind of go off. He's not going to be a political actor anymore. Is it necessary to send him to jail? So you could see that dynamic coming into play, but it certainly would open up a lot more options for Judge Marshawn as far as a sentence is concerned.
We'll see what happens 81 days from today. Tom Dupree, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Blake.
You got it. You were nodding your head along with that. Our resident attorney here on the show.
Listen, he could have sentenced him today and suspended the sentence and fined him, or suspended when he was going to have to serve. The fact that he didn't sentence him, I agree with everything Tom Dupree said, but this seems to lend itself more that he's going to sentence him to some time, even if he suspends it. He could sentence him to house arrest or probation. So I don't think if he loses the race, he'll certainly get one of those 3 things.
So Donald Trump was everywhere today. He gave a 50-minute speech in New York and Trump Tower today as it related to the E. Jean Carroll case. Then he got on the plane, flew down to North Carolina, gave a speech there. But let's start with where he was in New York earlier today. That 50-minute speech or so was all over the place as it relates to the legal process. And here was just some of what Trump said today.
It was Monica Lewinsky, part 2. The dress. She would not have been the chosen one. I've been famous for a long time.
All right, and it was a lot of that for 50 minutes. Here's why I bring it up. You got Donald Trump, TW, everywhere. Kamala Harris, basically silent, right? You've got after inflation, you've now got jobs numbers, which I just ticked through, which are not good, no matter how you look at it. They're coming down. And then we have the debate Tuesday night. And I wonder, with all of that as the backdrop, which of those is the most important if you want to be the next president of the United States?
Well, I think the biggest stepping stone between now and Election Day is going to be the debate. I think people are feeling the economic data in their pockets eventually and in the job market, but the debate is absolutely the biggest. It's refreshing to see Donald Trump out and talking to the press. I just wish it wasn't about this.
I was going to say, are you really refreshed about?
No.
Like, he was talking about.
I did not. That did not make me feel good about anything. No, he should never say that. But again, we say that all the time about Donald Trump. If he can only stay disciplined on the messaging, there's plenty to work with on that front.
So Harris is basically off the trail, Donald Trump on the trail.
And I was going to say, it seems as though the Harris campaign, by the looks of it, is just letting Trump keep talking.
Let Trump be Trump.
And then
right?
they are just standing back and watching, and they put out their press releases and say, what was this? What was this that Trump said today? What was that? And then they're kind of just staying in Pittsburgh. They put out the lid very early today, which means you aren't expected to see or hear from the VP anymore today. She may make stops in Pittsburgh, but she is hunkering down and showing that she's, as what they say, taking this seriously and getting ready for the debate as Trump is out there doing these, not press conferences because he didn't take questions, but doing these speeches.
Yeah, but Blake, can I raise one point?
Yep,
I watched some of that 50-minute speech. It was hard, but I did watch it. And he talked a lot about the judges in his 4 cases.
He did.
He criticized them repeatedly.
He did.
Now, Merchan still has to sentence him. These other judges may have to sentence him. And I've never seen a criminal defendant, after getting convicted 34 times, continue to be hypercritical of someone that has the power to put you in jail or house arrest or probation or give you a fine. It makes no sense. It's actually a dumb strategy. I'm sure his lawyers are telling him to do otherwise, but he's on his own now.
Maybe that on the legal side, but what about on the political side? Because you have, some on the right saying, you know what? He raises the issue about quote unquote lawfare and a 2-tiered justice system. Is that the lane that he should take? He's trying to make that argument, but is that the argument to be making right now?
I think, I'd prefer him to back away from it altogether. If he was going to pick one strategy, it would be that. And the reason I say that is because I think the goose is cooked, as Chris was alluding to before, for most voters. I don't really think people believe that he will see the inside of a jail cell ever.
Right.
And if things work out the way that I think they ought to, he should never. Same with Hunter Biden. Get over it.
Let me end with you. Those 3 things. Let Trump be Trump, which allows Kamala Harris to essentially be quiet or be off the trail, be silent. Is it the economy? Is it the debate? We don't. The debate is the unknown, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen Tuesday. But I just thought those were 3 things that were out there today that kind of encapsulated where we are in this moment.
So public opinion about the economy has actually gotten better.
Yeah, it has.
And voters have more confidence in Kamala Harris on the economy. That may not align with those numbers and the trend, but she's still losing on the question, but not by the kind of 20-point margins that Biden was. On the debate, it is a huge moment for her. She can, I don't know that she can win the election on Tuesday, but she could certainly lose it. She goes out there. The expectations for her are low. She is a bad extemporaneous speaker. She has a history as a bad extemporaneous speaker. And this is difficult for her. But here's one thing we know. Mm-hmm. Kamala Harris wants this election to be about Donald Trump. Every day she wants Donald Trump in the news. She wants him out there talking about the physical act of love, wants him out there being as wild and brazen and as possible. That's what she wants. And of course, that's why you saw yesterday he gave an economic speech. Mm-hmm. I was thinking of you. Berman means business. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And he was talking, and then he started talking about William McKinley and going crazy on talking about William McKinley. And you can just hear the forehead smacking from the people in the campaign behind, like, pick a message, stick to it, keep it simple.
So look, you could say that the basement strategy essentially that she's running is working. She's closed the gap. It worked for Joe Biden. He was 1-0, kind of with an asterisk, right? Because he dropped out of the second race, which he was losing. Donald Trump, you talk to the Trump folks, for 10 years, they will tell you, let Trump be Trump. It worked in 2016, didn't in 2020, but it's sort of the lay of the land right now heading into this big moment on Tuesday evening. By the way, mail-in voting in North Carolina, a huge swing state, or at least battleground state, now delayed at least a few days and possibly weeks due to a court ruling today. The court ordered that Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s name should appear on the ballot, as you see here, in a sample one. Now, state officials were supposed to begin sending out ballots today to more than 113 residents who had requested them, but the North Carolina Court of Appeals ordered election officials to start reprinting ballots without Kennedy's name. This afternoon, Donald Trump applauded that ruling.
And that sounds like a bad thing for him. It's not. It's actually a great thing. He's an incredible team player, and he didn't want anybody to be voting his name because, as you know, he fully endorsed us.
Now, it's not clear if that ruling will be appealed and what happens next. Keep in mind, these were the first ballots to go out and already an issue, you could say. Also today in Michigan, appeals courts ruled RFK Jr.'s name must be removed from that state's ballot as he had requested. That overturns the decision of the Secretary of State. Still to come here on the Hill over the next 45 minutes. Steyerwalt is breaking down some of the most important races to watch in the next 60 days, including What is going on in Texas? What is going on in Florida? Chris will break it down. Plus, he pled guilty in his federal tax case. But why? And does it set up a possible pardon? Hunter Biden's attorney is joining us here on The Hill, live, in about 15 minutes. But first, on the other side of the break, if you're part of an airline rewards program, right, you got the credit cards, gives you the miles and all that good stuff. Well, it is now most likely under investigation. The points guy, Brian Kelly, joins us to explain what that is all about, what it means for your miles. I'm Blake Berman. Hello from Washington. You're watching The Hill on NewsNation. All right, welcome back here to The Hill on NewsNation. Have you ever thought those rewards miles that you have don't go as far as they used to? You might be right. The Department of Transportation is now investigating frequent flyer and credit card rewards programs of 4 major airlines: American, United, Delta, and Southwest Airlines. The probe is looking into whether or not there's a loss in value of earned rewards, a fluctuation of reward pricing, extra fees, and maybe even a reduction in competition and choice. The Transportation Secretary, Pete Buttigieg, says the goal is to, quote, ensure consumers are getting the value that was promised to them, which means validating that these programs are transparent and fair. Now, the timing here is important as well. We're going to get into this in a second, as the airlines have 90 days to respond to the government's questions. Joining us now, live, the man who knows about your points more than anyone that we know. He is the points guy, friend of the show at this point, Brian Kelly. Brian, great to see you as always. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Why is the government doing this? And do you think they're right to?
Well, there's a couple theories. I think at face value, this administration under Secretary Buttigieg has been very consumer friendly. You know, next month, airlines will have to start automatically refunding passengers for canceled flights, which is a no-brainer in my opinion. They've also, helped push airlines to at least list their customer service policy when things go wrong, et cetera. So this is at face value a move ostensibly to help consumers. I think anyone in the points world will tell you there has been a rapid devaluation of these rewards over the years. What used to be 100,000 miles business class to Europe is now 500,000 and up with no
is that right?
Well, on certain airlines, the U.S. airlines have been most egregious. It's a brilliant business. They sell billions of dollars worth of rewards to credit card companies, and then they have full control over how much they're worth.
The credit card companies, Brian, you know this, but for our audience here on NewsNation listening to us on SiriusXM, the credit card aspect of this, they are valued at more than the actual airlines themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the airlines are essentially flying banks. If it wasn't for these loyalty programs,
I say it all the time. Airlines are banks. Yeah.
So I think there's a saying, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. I think there's a sentiment out there that the airlines have gotten so greedy that they're just, and then letting the consumers catch the knife, right? They bank billions, and then, I do think it's egregious. American Airlines, for example, still expires miles after 24 months. So the optimist in me would love to see some regulations saying, hey, look, airlines should not expire these valuable miles. They should, give consumers heads up when they change. And even when you pass away, most airlines will take your miles from deceased family members. So I would love to see a whole new consumer bill of rights out of this. Whether that happens, remains to be seen, especially.
Yeah, so I have the Capitol behind me, right? We're, 500, 1,000 yards away from the Capitol. Do you think Washington actually gets something done here in a fashion that helps folks?
This DOT has been pretty aggressive using the means that they have to put these rules. Technically, the Bill of Rights should be a congressional, law passed. Now, the downside to this, and I've been on this program talking about it, I think a large impetus behind this is Senator Dick Durbin, who's trying to push through the Credit Card Competition Act. That is a pet piece of legislation he's been trying to get through, which essentially would make it much harder to earn points with credit cards. It would force you to get a debit card, essentially, if you have a Visa or MasterCard on your same card. So Dick Durbin was calling for this investigation. Yeah. So the skeptic in me says this isn't exactly pro-consumer. There are ulterior motives behind this.
All right. By the way, Dick Durbin, we can put the post on screen. He supports what the Department of Transportation is doing now with this. Last question for you, Brian. There's going to be a new president. It's either going to be Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. And if it is Donald Trump, the airlines have 90 days to respond. That's December. It takes us into the holidays. and in theory, Donald Trump could be president on January 20th. Would a Trump administration, a Republican administration carry on with this, or do you think this is just specific to Democrats?
I think that would be highly unlikely, just seeing what we saw during the Trump administration and then Secretary Chow. There was not a whole lot of interest in the consumer angle. So I could be surprised, but I think if Trump wins, this will go by the wayside.
All right. He is the points guy. Brian Kelly knows all about points, credit cards, your miles, etc. Brian, thanks for being back with us here on The Hill.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. All right. This is a show in Washington. We talk about politics a lot. Travel. First president to travel internationally. You know who it was?
First president to travel internationally. I'm going with Hoover.
Nope.
I'm going to say McKinley.
Nope.
Scott's so confident.
I only remember one or two things from my history class at Morehouse College.
Which is?
This was one of them.
Who is it?
Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt and his wife traveled to Panama in 1906 in November to inspect the Panama Canal. The U.S. president who has traveled the most.
Oh. I mean, I don't know. Obama?
No, close.
Clinton.
You got it surrounded. George W. Bush. He traveled to 75 different countries, making 142 different visits.
Did he cancel his miles?
I'm not sure how those Air Force One miles work, but it's a nice ride. All right, still much more ahead here on The Hill, including new developments in the latest school shooting investigation. We have a live report from Georgia, where the 14-year-old suspect and his father appeared in court today. Our correspondent, who was inside the courtroom, tells us what she saw. Plus, he faces up to 17 years in prison after pleading guilty to tax charges. So why did Hunter Biden plead guilty? His attorney, the famed Mark Garagos, joins us live here on The Hill. We're back in 4 minutes. All right, welcome back here to The Hill on NewsNation. Tonight, the investigation continues into Wednesday's deadly school shooting at Appalachia High School in Georgia. The 14-year-old suspect, Colt Gray, was in the courtroom for the first time after being charged with 4 counts of felony murder. His father, Colin Gray, right side of the screen there, as you can see, visibly shaking throughout the proceedings. Colin Gray is now charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder, 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, and 8 counts of cruelty to children, and he could face life in prison. 2 students and 2 teachers were killed in that shooting, 8 students and 1 teacher injured. Prosecutors in Georgia say there will be more charges. Joining us now here on The Hill, NewsNation correspondent Brooke Schaefer, who was inside that courtroom in Georgia earlier today. Brooke, I wonder what it was like as you were there. You see the video of the father, as there has been a lot of focus on him in the last 24 hours, the father shaking throughout the proceedings there. What was it like being in that courtroom?
Yeah, it was really interesting, Blake, because you really had emotions on both sides of the courtroom, because also inside the courtroom with us were some families of some of the victims of this shooting. They were escorted in through a separate entrance, and then they sat in the front row watching these back-to-back appearances. At times they got emotional themselves. Of course, they had some tissues. They were wiping away tears at times. And then we saw this 14-year-old suspected shooter walk in. About 30 minutes later, his dad was escorted in as well, both of them for their first appearances. The teen, for his part, he was very quiet, sat very still. It was really kind of hard to even see his face, with his hair sort of covering his face for most of the appearance. His dad, though, as you pointed out, showing much more emotion. He was asked a couple of questions by the judge, things like his age, his education. His voice sounded rather hoarse. And then at times during the hearing, Blake, you see him there. He was rocking back and forth, seemingly shaken up by the charges he is facing. We should mention, as you sort of pointed out there, Blake, the 14-year-old suspected shooter here facing life in prison. His dad effectively facing the same, facing up to 180 years behind bars.
Our Brooke Schaefer, live for us in Winder, Georgia tonight, inside the courtroom earlier today. Brooke, thank you. Meantime, Hunter Biden. Question tonight about if he will be going to federal prison. The White House is insisting that President Biden will not pardon his son after he entered a surprising guilty plea in his federal tax case just yesterday. Hunter Biden, as you might know, was accused of failing to pay nearly $1.4 million in taxes from 2016 to 2019. He pled guilty to all 9 charges. His sentencing is scheduled for December 16th, and he faces the possibility of up to 17 years in prison. Now, it comes nearly 3 months after a jury convicted Hunter Biden on 3 felony gun charges. Joining us now, Mark Garagos, Hunter Biden's attorney in the most recent case. Mark, thank you for being with us here on the Hill. First time, I believe. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Of course. So your colleague, Abby Lowell, said yesterday that Hunter Biden decided to make this decision to, quote unquote, put his family first. Tell me how Hunter Biden came to that decision, and tell me what Hunter Biden was like in the most recent 24 hours or so after deciding to make this plea deal.
Well, I think, the Abby, who you were just invoking, had tried the case in Delaware, and by all accounts, I wasn't there, but by all accounts, it was traumatic. He had to relive the addiction, and back there in Delaware, as I sit here in Los Angeles, it was the special counsel's position that he was an addict in order to prove that gun case. And so they went through and, frankly, I think destroyed or tried to destroy him and make him relive that part of his life in order to get a conviction. He came out here. I was hired a couple of months ago, and we immediately started investigating this, and it became apparent to me that he had real defenses to this case. Number one, you had mentioned $1.4 million in taxes. All of the taxes were paid. Not only were all of the taxes paid, but it's his contention, and based on some of the experts that we consulted, that he's owed over $100,000 in a tax refund.
Why did he plead guilty then? So why did he plead guilty?
Let me tell you why. The special counsel asked, number one, that the judge disallow the fact that he paid his taxes. The judge agreed. The special counsel asked specifically to eliminate our expert on addiction. Judge agreed. So he did not get a tax, and also a tax expert or a limited tax expert, did not get an addiction expert, was not going to be able to tell the jury about the paying of the tax. And I think most importantly and traumatic to him, we were not allowed to talk about the death of his mother and his sister at a very young age and the death of his brother as contributing or being causal to the addiction. Once you eliminate those trauma, then he had a very tough decision to make. Do I go forward with this case, put my family through all of the salacious details of my addiction that I'm now 4 to 5 years removed from? Or do I just plead open and hope that the judge realizes that was a dark period in my life?
Okay, so you're a parent, Mark. I'm a parent. The White House has said that President Biden will not pardon, will not commute his son. President Biden has said that himself. There's 84 million families, I believe, in this country, Mark. I do not believe you will find a single parent who believes that President Biden will not pardon or commute Hunter Biden. I do not believe you will find a single parent in this country who, if they had the chance to stop their own child from going to federal prison, would do just that. Do you believe that Hunter Biden is getting a pardon before President Biden leaves office?
I wish I had the knowledge or have talked to or would have any ability to make that determination or answer your question. I will tell you, you talk about 84 million Americans. I think there's probably 10 million Americans who have either been late on paying their taxes or late on filing their taxes, and they don't get criminally prosecuted. So I don't know the answer to that question, but I'll tell you this. The idea that this special counsel should have been prosecuting this case, I think there's a better than even possibility that the special counsel statute gets invalidated prior to sentencing by the either the U.S. Supreme Court or the 11th Circuit. Remember, down in Florida, the judge threw out the case against Trump because special counsel, based on the concurrence by Justice Thomas, special counsel is not authorized by law. So that's the same argument goes here.
Let me ask you this. To the best of your knowledge, do you know if Hunter Biden has talked to his father about the possibility of a pardon or commutation? Can you rule out that he has or hasn't?
Well, this is what I can rule out. If you're asking me for anything that I've talked about with my client, I don't know if you practice law, but that would be attorney-client. So I couldn't answer that in any way, shape, or form. And by the way, if you were in my office, well, the best of my knowledge would come from the client. And by the way, if you're in my office consulting me and then had somebody ask me on air what we talked about, I would just say I can't tell you because attorney-client. I don't mean to obfuscate. I'm just going to tell you he pled open. He pled open because his defense was eviscerated, and he did not want to further put his family through a horrible, horrible kind of parade for no reason, basically. It was salacious for no reason. The question I think you should be asking is, why in the world would somebody who's paid all of their taxes, filed all of their returns, had demonstrable addiction issues at the time, and that affects the ability to evade taxes? What you should be asking to me is why, when President Biden has already said he's not going to run, what was the purpose of taking this case to trial? Why did we spend, as taxpayers, over $4 million for a case where no harm, no foul? That's the question I can opine on. That's the question I can answer.
Mark Garagos, got to leave it there. Speaking of time, we're running out of it. Appreciate you being on the Hill. Hope to have you back once again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You got it. All right. Attorney, I know you've commented on this matter a lot. I got to run a break, but real quick.
If Hunter Biden wasn't Hunter Biden, he's right. It would never be prosecuted. There are tens of millions of people who owe taxes, have payment plans and what have you. But because of the politics of this and the Republicans, this is what you're facing. Secondly, all of those defenses are relevant, probative, material maybe, but not dispositive of those tax charges.
So if he decided to put his family first in the second time, the question is, why didn't he do that? Among the questions, why didn't he do that the first time?
There are many questions, and there's one answer, which is, you may be right that he wouldn't have been prosecuted this way if he wasn't Hunter Biden, but he wouldn't have made the money to not pay taxes on in the first place if he hasn't been Hunter.
All right, still to come here on the Hill. What is going on in Texas, Florida, and Ohio? The new numbers in those states. Steyerwalt breaking it down on the other side of the break, and then there's this.
Writing this memoir has been a deeply personal and reflective journey for me.
Why Melania Trump is ready to set the record straight as she knows it. This is The Hill on NewsNation. Back in a few.
NewsNation Tuesday. Vice President Kamala Harris, former President Donald Trump on the only network with respect for all Americans. Live coverage starts at 7/6 Central, followed by the ABC presidential debate simulcast. It's debate night with Chris Cuomo. Tuesday.
Nation, some new information tonight about just how close some of the Senate races are, with the control of Congress hanging in the ballot. Every Senate seat is crucial, with 30 of them up for grabs this year. Steyerwalt here to break it all down with some new polling today in some states we normally wouldn't talk about, but it's critical, it's crucial.
Yeah. And we've been talking ad infinitum about Montana and Ohio.
Yep.
Where Democrats are on defense, and we would just remember throughout all of this, they're going to lose a seat in West Virginia.
Democrats.
Yeah, the Democrats are going to lose a seat in West Virginia. They got a 51-seat majority. So the only way they're going to hold on to the Senate is they got to hold serve every place else, right? And win the presidency and have Tim Walz become the vice president, cast the tie-breaking vote. That's how narrow the Democrats' path is. Unless, could they broaden the map? Well, how about, we can start with Florida. Why don't we start with Florida? Because it's already up. Incumbent Senator Rick Scott, former governor, only 1 point up on Debbie Muskersell-Powell, former congresswoman from South Florida.
Right.
That's pretty close.
Yep.
Right? That's very close. What about Texas? Can we have Texas? Look at that. Ted Cruz and his beard only up 4 points on Congressman Colin Allred, former Baylor star linebacker who represents a suburban Dallas district. That's pretty close, right? So this is where the Democrats are saying maybe it's going to be all right. Sherrod Brown, only up 4 points. He's only up 4 points. That's only about as well as Ted Cruz is doing in Texas. And then I think we can also show you the Montana poll. Look at Montana. John Tester down 6 points. That would be the loss. So you do the math. If you're a Democrat, you say, okay, we're going to lose Montana, but maybe we can expand the map. Maybe we can push in Florida and go down to those Gulf states and push in on Florida and Texas. I just want to remind everybody, and Liz Cheney today said she was endorsing Colin Allred in Texas.
Right.
And Democrats are feeling those Beto O'Rourke vibes. They're feeling those good vibes coming off the Gulf waters. But I would just remind everybody of this, the comparison between Donald Trump and the Senate candidates in these states. Look at the difference, right? So in Florida, you see Trump is running 4 points ahead of Rick Scott. In Ohio, he's running well ahead of Sherrod Brown. In Montana, these are the Democrats on the other side, running well ahead of the Democrat Sheehy in Montana,
right,
and running 2 points ahead of the Democrat in Texas. My point to you is, late in the game, those undecided voters, and each of these new polls from The Hill and Emerson College show that there's 8 or 9 points of undecided voters. Who do you think those folks are? They're low propensity voters. They're probably going to match the partisanship of the state. They come in late, and they'll end up pushing these Republicans up at the end.
Real quick, Florida, because you got a lot of folks saying, wait a minute, Rick Scott, 1 point, he's won every race he's ever won in Florida. There's 1 million more registered Republicans in Florida. Should Republicans spend time, money, energy, or Democrats rather, time, money, energy on that race, or?
Well, like I say, the Beto O'Rourke phenomenon is real. They see these states, Democrats see these Gulf states, and they say, oh my gosh, it's so close, it's so close. And Beto O'Rourke basically burned $100 million
in Texas
in 2018 trying to unseat Ted Cruz. Rick Scott's really rich. He is super duper rich, and he's a good fundraiser too. Democrats have a cash advantage right now. Kamala Harris is raising enough money to burn a wet elephant. She is just going for it. She is doing it. They have all this cash. A little down there, good, but it can become a sinkhole for small dollar contributions.
Steyerwalt breaks it down. By the way, my good friend Chris Steyerwalt hosts The Hill Sunday here on NewsNation. Got a fantastic lineup this weekend. Chris will be speaking with Laura Trump. Look at that. Good on you, Chris, getting Laura Trump.
Well, I didn't do anything.
the team helped out.
Yeah, the team did.
He's also going to be talking to one of the stars in the Democratic Party as it relates to the House, Congressman Dan Goldman, Democrat from New York. That is The Hill, Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern, right here on NewsNation. All right, as we're back with the crew here, did you happen to see this? Melania Trump making a rare appearance on X, posting a video to promote her upcoming memoir. Watch.
Writing this memoir has been a deeply personal and reflective journey for me. As a private person who has often been the subject of public scrutiny and misrepresentation, I feel a responsibility to clarify the facts.
All right, that's Melania Trump. Of course, she's got a new book coming out in about a month or so. This was a 40-second or so video that was posted. I'll go around the table, start with UTW. What'd you hear there, Melania Trump?
Well, look, Melania Trump has taken a lot of crap over the last 6 years, and she stayed silent in large part to protect her son. And I think a lot of Americans see this glamorous, multilingual, smart first lady who got zero of the positive attention first ladies usually get. Dr. Jill Biden's been on a bajillion Vogue covers, but yet Melania Trump, who is a literal model, has not graced one. I think it sits poorly with people, and I think a lot of Americans are going to be interested to hear her story.
What do you think's going on here with Melania Trump?
It's interesting because, I was thinking about that statement that she put out right after the assassination attempt of her husband. And, that was the first really long statement that we've heard from her. And it gave real insight into her life and her speaking about her love for Trump and her family, and that to remind the American people that this is my husband, this is a person, and really trying to make this more personal. So I think it's interesting her putting this out and really trying to get people to know her, potentially preparing if she is the first lady again.
You going to dunk on her or good on her?
She's an enigma, and she drives that narrative, and she made some choices. Being married to Donald Trump is a gift and a curse, and if she was less of an enigma, she'd probably be on magazine covers.
Love, Scott.
That love thing, that love thing is tough. Trust me, that love thing gets crazy.
So one of the interesting things about Melania Trump is she hasn't been out on the campaign trail.
No.
And I wonder if that's going to change down the home stretch.
I bet no. My money is a solid, strong no. She fulfilled many of the ceremonial duties of the First Lady, but she wasn't engaged as a First Lady as somebody like Joe Biden, Michelle Obama, or Laura Bush, or somebody was. She took a different kind of role. And his daughter actually played a pretty significant role in the Trump White House. What I'm curious to see in this book and curious to know from her is basically how does she see her role in a second Trump presidency? What kind of First Lady would she see herself being?
That book comes out in early October. I think she might be doing some media for that, so maybe another chance. It's always interesting. Melania Trump, she's rarely out there, rarely talks.
Right here, is she welcome right here?
We'd love to have
you can walk her over to the board like that.
Go over to the wall like we did with you.
Do the whole thing.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. By the way, coming up here on the Hill, other side of the break, there is a big NFL game in Brazil tonight, as you might know. But I'm going to explain on the other side of the break why that should be seen as the second biggest story coming out of that country, involving the U.S. just this week alone. You see that?
What you did there.
Leland Vittert, host of On Balance, other side of the break. All right, so before we say goodbye, here's a story that caught our eye. Brazil is in the spotlight tonight as the NFL heads to Sao Paulo for its first ever game in South America. Now, the Green Bay Packers are set to face off against the Philadelphia Eagles. But did you see what happened off the field earlier this week in that country? Brazil froze Starlink's assets in the midst of a spat between X, the company that's owned by Elon Musk, and a Brazilian Supreme Court justice. Leland Vittert, host of On Balance, come on in. You know, Leland, this caught my attention because Starlink, it's a subsidiary of SpaceX, an American-owned company, an American company with American investors, American-backed money behind it. Brazil's the 8th largest economy in the world, and they're freezing the assets. I don't know. It didn't sit well.
Good luck trying to get American companies to invest in Brazil going forward.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Once you cross this Rubicon,